In RPG games, a character's class is more than just a label. It's a blueprint that defines their role in the world, their strengths and weaknesses, and how they grow over time. Whether it's a warrior with high physical power, a mage who relies on magical powers and mana, or a rogue, for example, with agility and critical strike potential, the class system lays the foundation for how stats and attributes evolve as the character levels up. Classes help determine which attributes like strength, dexterity, intelligence, or endurance, and so on get prioritized, and they also influence the derived stats such as health, stamina, attack damage, defense, and so on. And the structured growth is what gives each class its unique gameplay experience and identity. So in this tutorial, we'll break down how to define classes in the framework, how to assign growth formulas to each statistic and attribute, and see how to actually provide a class to an entity. So let's dive in. In order to create a class, as usual, we can right-click on our assets, go on Create, down on SuperBG Framework, and we can select Class. So, for example, we may want to create like a Knight class. And you see that in Inspector we have some fields to fill in. The mandatory one is the stat set. And this stat set will represent the statistics that we want to associate with this class. So for this video tutorial, I will be also using the samples that came along with the package. So I will be considering the stat set that are already provided in the samples folder, so on examples, instances, and on hero, we have this hero stat set. So we can drag and drop our hero stat set here that contains just physical attack, magical power, defense, and critical chance for simplicity. Very simple. And now we want to specify for our knight class how each statistic grows with the levels. So we can define now some growth formulas for each of the statistics required. So we can go create SuperPG framework growth formula, and we need to create one for all of them. So for example, physical attack. Very well, we can start from the physical attack. If we want to provide a base value of the statistic for a class, we can rely on the constant at level 1 as a base value. So for example, we could set this to 14, for example, for our knight, a good starting point for the physical attack. And then starting from level 2, we may want to say, okay, I want it to be, for example, the previous value plus a certain amount, for example, 3. Okay, and we see that now we have a linear progression for the physical attack that is increasing. Now, maybe our knight may have a slightly less magical power progression. So at level 1, he starts off by 6, and he just, starting from level 2, he just gets 2 extra, or maybe just 1 extra point of magical power per level. So he has a more mild progression, and at level 50, you will see that he will get only 55 magical power, while he was getting 161 at level 50 for the physical attack. We can go on and assign also some values for the defense. He would have a very good defense knight, so he starts by 18. From level 2 instead, he progresses with previous value plus 4, for example. And in the end, we have a critical chance that starts with 2, and sometimes in some games, critical chance is not affected by the progression of values, so we can also say, well, it remains the same, so previous. And this can also be achieved by getting rid of the constant at level 1, setting this at level 1 and constant at 2. Because probably will be affected, for example, from attributes or from equipment, from buffs, from other kinds of things. Okay, we are left now to set to drag and drop our growth formulas for the statistics in our class. So physical attack with the physical attack growth formula, to magical power, defense, and critical chance to critical chance. Very well. So now our knight has the progression for the statistics, but maybe we want to set also the progression for the attributes. And before doing this, I want to point out the fact that most commonly in RPG games, if both attributes and statistics are being used, the progression for the statistics will not be used, because are the attributes that are driving the statistics values. And if you remember from the attributes video tutorial, we showed how for a certain statistic, for example the physical attack, how the statistic is affected on the base of one or more attributes. So through attribute scaling component, and there is one exactly for the physical attack, we see here that there is a 1-to-1 scaling ratio in between the strength and the physical attack. So for each point of strength that our hero has, he will get also 1 point of physical attack. So in order to achieve the result that we only want to use scalings for attributes and have that the statistics are not scaling on their own but are influenced by the scaling on the attributes only, we can define for simplicity here a growth formula that is 0 constant, and we can set it for all the statistics of our hero. And this one formula has 0 for all the values. So by this we are saying, okay, by default the statistics at any level will have the 0 value. And now if we add the hero attribute set here, we can instead assign growth formulas for the various attributes, and they will be the one driving the values of statistics as a consequence instead. We can recycle the growth formulas that we used for the statistics before, and we can rename physical attack into strength. Now dexterity before was just a constant 2 because it was the critical chance. Now maybe makes more sense probably if we just assign, as for the other attributes, a progression. So we could say previous plus. Obviously these progressions are very simple, you can feel free to change them as you wish. And now we can drag and drop them here, strength to strength, intelligence to intelligence, constitution here, and dexterity here. Now there is one last thing here, that is the max HP growth formula, and this can be used to define the baseline of the maximum health points that a certain class has. And this is still once more another growth formula. For example, we can provide one that is max HP. Oops. Voila. And for example, can start off from 100, and from level 2 onwards, it is previous plus, for example, 10 times the level. Very well. We can then assign this here, and we are complete. Our knight class is full set. In order to showcase this knight class, I want first to introduce you into the sample scene that is coming along with the samples of the package, where 3 classes are already provided: the mage, the rogue, and the warrior. And for each of them there is obviously the class, and you can see that they're using both statistics progression and attributes progression. Obviously, you can do as you wish in your game, so feel free to choose the progression for both of them and tailor them to your game for your needs. However, here there are all the growth formulas, both for the attributes, statistics, and as well as a maximum HP growth formula for the class. Now, if we play the game, the scene, you will see that we have here some panels showing the statistics for each character. That this is a warrior, the central one is the mage, and the one on the right is the rogue. And you can see that they have physical attack, magical power, like the statistics, and you can also change to see the attributes here with the arrow buttons. Now, for example, we may want to say, okay, I want this character to not be a warrior anymore, but to be a knight instead. So we can select the warrior here from our game object. He is obviously an entity, and you can see that he has the entity class component. And if we drag and drop the knight class here, his statistics will change. Now he has 14, 6, 14, and 0. And these are actually the statistics that are calculated on the base of the attributes, basing on the attribute scaling components that were defined for each statistic. So you can see that once again, it is possible to dynamically swap a class, and the statistics and attributes of the new class will be used for the same character. This is very flexible, improves greatly the testability, so that you can also swap with a dummy test class with some fixed statistics, so that you can see how is your game behaving with some simple data for statistics and attributes. Now we can also change the level of our warrior to see if they changes, like the strength. Now let's go to level 2, and you see that now at level 2 strength increased from 17. And if we check our strength growth formula for the knight, you can see that at level 2 it is 17. And since the physical attack attribute scaling component says, well, for each point of strength you will get 1 point of physical attack, and this is being used here in the physical attack, the scaling component, we expect also the physical attack to be 17, as we used the 0 constant growth formula for the physical attack. And in fact, they both are matching, they are both 17. But if we swap back to the warrior class for our warrior here, so we drag and drop the warrior back here, you can see that he has 16 of strength and 29 of physical attack, because he is instead using also physical attack growth formula. So at level 2 he has 13 physical attack, and he also have 16 strength, and summed up 13 plus 16 is actually 29, and the value is what we expect. Okay, so you can actually play around with the samples, so the sample scene, to see how the values change when you change the level or the growth formulas, we swap classes, and you will see all the changes. One last thing that we could mention here, just to showcase right now, is the fact that there are also the attribute points that you are given when you level up. So now that our warrior is level 2 and he got 1 attribute spendable point, and this is because we said, okay, attributes point per level, we are using this variable whose value is 1, so at level 2 he just earned 1, but if he goes at level 5 he will have 4 points. And now we can also assign these attribute points to the various attributes in order to change them, to increase them. So for example, we may want to give 4 extra points in strength to our warrior, and you can see that here the strength now is not anymore 16 but is 20. the last thing to mention is the fact that in order for our characters to pick the statistics and the attributes from the class, they need to have the use base stats from class and the use class base attributes checkbox checked, because if we instead uncheck this, we will be using the base statistics and the base attributes that are defined in line here. And this, for example, yeah, we can see that if we go here on the warrior, we can see now that he has lower. We can also swap this out. You see, they are all 0 by default, except for the 4 point we assign to strength, and so the physical attack is 4 for coming from the 4 points in strength, and also the strength is 4 and the other are 0. And also here you don't have to exit play mode and enter again, because you can just dynamically in play mode change from where the attributes and statistics are taken from, and everything will dynamically update.